All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of the Forge Your Life podcast here with your host, Richard Fu from richardfu.com. And today, guys, I have a lane changer in here. He's an amazing guy. We've just had a short chat already, and I'm excited because I don't want to hold him back any longer. You know, he's just got so much energy behind him, and I'm ready to unleash him because he is huge. His name's Lane Ethridge. He's an international best-selling author, and he's a huge business owner. He's made it onto the stage multiple times, and he's a trainer and radio personality and a bunch of other crazy stuff too. I'm excited to have him on the show here today, guys. He's going to be sharing about his own personal journey, how he got into entrepreneurship, and what it is that we need to be doing if we're looking to get into entrepreneurship. So, guys, without further ado, please welcome Lane to the show. Lane, good to have you on, brother.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you and appreciate what you're doing in your marketplace and worldwide and everything. And you know, I get offered to do these a lot, and I don't always say yes, but I've just seen kind of your movement and what you've been doing from afar. And you know, the reality is that a long time ago, I'll kind of share my journey here in a second, but the truth of the matter is I was very selfish when I started, and I became selfless. And there's times in which we need to be selfish to become more selfless. But why I love what you're doing is because you're bringing people on your show to help impart wisdom, knowledge, expertise to other people that are wanting to use that. And why would you ever say no to that, right? So I applaud you for what you're doing. And for everybody that's listening, you know, just make sure that you tap into everything Richard's doing, because one thing I've learned is this, as we kind of dive in, we use a lot of car analogies, and the reality is that we all are driving the world forward. The question is, what vehicle are we using, and what driver's manual have we created or adopted from somebody else? Yeah. And the truth of the matter is, Richard, for aspiring wantrepreneurs, those that want to become entrepreneurs, we call them wantrepreneurs, all they have to do is really use your rear view mirror to become their windshield, because you've already been places that they want to go. I've been places they want to go. They've probably been places I want to go. So why wouldn't we just sit back and learn from the ones that have already been before us and go from there? So it's very simple, right? Yeah. And so I'll kind of share my journey, but I want you guys to understand this. The road to success is always under construction, right?
Love
because it's true. Every single time, my company's called Changing Lanes, and every single time in every business we're ever in, the world is changing. We just obviously in the United States just had a big election yesterday, and whether it's a global impact or not, things are changing. Every single day things are changing, whether you like it or not. You can let it affect you positively or negatively and respond accordingly to it. So, you know, for me, Richard, my journey actually as an entrepreneur started about 9 years ago, and I'm so blessed to have survived that long. And there's been a lot of and roadblocks and detours and a lot of tolls along the road, if you want to consider that. But the truth of the matter is that it was a book that changed my life at a time in which I was a middle school math teacher. I loved teaching. I went to graduate school. I went to a 4-year university, kind of followed the path of becoming a teacher. And I read a book, Richard, called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Most people have probably heard of that. It's not that new to a lot of people, but when I read it 9 years ago, I think it was at the time, it was revolutionary for me. The paradigm shift I had was like so astronomical that now I look back and I'm like, it's so second nature. But a lot of times, you know, something so brand new and revolutionary is very impactful. And so I actually quit teaching. I totally just pretty much cold turkey, if you want to consider that. But I want to teach you guys some things that I learned, and as we're going through life in school, we teach our students a lesson, and then we give them a test, right? And you know, in entrepreneurship, we're given a test, and then we got to decipher the lesson and figure it out. And so my whole journey started by reading that book, quitting teaching, moving all the way to San Diego from Washington, D.C., and leaving everything I knew. And sometimes we have to get out of our comfort zone to become uncomfortable to actually find comfort again. And so I made the journey across, and the next book I read was a book called Think and Grow Rich. Many people have obviously heard that as well. It's my second, you know, those are the only 2 books outside of required academic reading that I ever had read at that point. And if you remember the story, it was about a guy who moved from Maryland to California to strike it rich, basically got tired, quit, went home, sold the machinery to a junk man. He hired an excavator and struck the biggest gold mine ever. And so the concept is, who are you following? Who are you learning from? And are you giving up right before your biggest success? And this was at a time in my life where everything was falling apart. Things weren't going that well. And so from an internal perspective, I was totally jacked up, and I didn't have this in order to get everything else that I needed. And so I really adopted Napoleon Hill's principles and started implementing them, and life kind of changed. I'm going to tie that back in here in a second, but that was the beginning of my journey. And for those of you who are in a position right now where you're at rock bottom, I will tell you this, that you're 35,000 feet above where I started, because I had invested into a real estate course that cost $35,000. And so I was actually full starting my career. And so I'm not saying that for any other reason, except for it doesn't matter where you are, it's where you want to go. And it's the distance between that creates the reality that you want.
Wow, Lane, man. Thank you for sharing so much. And most of all, thank you for being like honest, man. Even when you opened up, you said, I was selfish beforehand, but now I've actually transformed. I've gone through, sounds like a crazy journey you've gone through, man, to really, one, realize who you are, and two, to create the success that you have created. And so, talk us through this journey here, man. I mean, like, you read the books and then you made that decision, like, I'm going to quit this teaching thing and I want to go out and go do something. Yeah. And then so you went in and you started investing into the real estate side of things, and you put in 35,000 on this course. Then what happened, man? I mean, like, was that course good for you? Was it not good for you? I mean, like, what ended up coming from that? How did that trigger you into becoming more of a businessman now?
Yeah, great question. So number one, it taught me personal responsibility, and I think it's so often we become the victim mentality. And, you can blame everything else on every other factor except for your own personal choices and how you respond to those. And so real quick, Richard, what I want you to do is I want you to imagine that there's a wire going from this side of the screen all the way over to this side, and there's 5 birds sitting on top of it, right? And 3 of them decide to fly off. How many birds are left? There's 5 on and 3 decide to fly off. How many are left?
2.
Okay, you would think that it's 2, but there's a key word there. So they decided to fly off. And you see what happens is they didn't actually do it. They just made a decision with no action behind it. And most entrepreneurs, most 9-to-5ers, most people in the corporate world, they want to get out of it, but they're only making a decision, but they're not actually taking the first step. Martin Luther King says, you don't have to see the whole staircase, just take the first step. And so, to answer your question, the reality is I took the step. And yeah, it was not maybe the best educated step at the time, but I was naive and ignorant. And but every single thing is a lane change that takes us down the next path and ultimately leads us to the avenue that we are supposed to be in. And when you find that, Rich, I'm telling you, for everyone listening, when you find the right lane, there's no traffic. You are the expert in that lane and you get to dominate that, and everything will kind of open up. It doesn't mean that there's not traffic, and it doesn't necessarily mean that there's not roadblocks and all that kind of stuff, but you don't care. You can just get around them and dominate everything that you're doing.
Wow.
And so for me, yeah, I mean, I did have a little bit of success, but it wasn't until I moved out to San Diego, because I started investing when I was in Maryland. And I moved to San Diego and I really found a mentor. I didn't understand what mentorship really meant at the time, but I learned scripts. I did cold calling. I probably did 150 cold calls a day. And I learned how to sell, and I learned how to really build a pipeline and really take my skill set as teaching and transfer that into, talking to people. And so I fell in love with the idea of, going back to teaching. I didn't like the curriculum mentality. I didn't really like the political aspect of it, but I love the one-on-one tutoring. And in the public school system, we call it tutoring. In this world, we call it mentorship. Really, there's not that much different.
Yep.
So, I fell in love with that. And so I started doing that, and I had some success. And really what happened for me is I was given the opportunity to go on stage and speak of 150 people that I'd never done before. And a lot of times, again, one thing leads to the next one, and every turn that you make might be leading you to your true passion. And I really believe that our maximum ability to create collaborative contribution to the world is based at that merging of aptitude and altitude. And so you've got to make sure that you use your God-given gifts the best you can with the passion that you have behind that. And then that's when you can fuel, your passion. And so I was offered the opportunity to be the top sales guy to speak at this live event. I didn't know what I was doing, but I said yes, and I figured it out. And I'll tell you this, going back to the decision thing, right? Mm-hmm. You don't have all the answers, but you have to make a decision. There's enough squirrels on the road killed, splat, dead, because they made a decision, but they did not quick enough, right?
Yep.
That's what's happening to most entrepreneurs right now. With the times that are changing, they make a decision. By the time they actually act on it, it's too late. And I'm not saying that you can't make up that time, but I'm just saying that you get stuck and then you try to figure out what the heck to do. Yeah. And so that's, for me, that's what happened. And I want to share the next thing that happened. But if you have any questions about that before I tie that in to the next thing that really changed my life, Anything you want me to clear up or help kind of clarify with any of the
Oh
listeners?
man, I'm just sitting here just absorbing it, man. Yeah, I know you're using that so that you can have a quick water break, and that's cool, bro. You make that point about the decision. I mean, so often the entrepreneurs, the people who are listening here, who know they want something else, but they're afraid to let go and go for it. That's their problem. It's like they're the bird. They're letting go with one leg, and then they're trying to fly off with the other one, but the other one's still holding on. And then that's how you get zapped, right? And then I love the theme that you run through here is of the lane change, right? Is what we call the pivot. Is that just because you decide to go do one thing doesn't mean it's the thing that you're going to do forever.
Sure.
Whole process, and this is what I'm hearing from you, Lane, is that you've gone out, you tried this, and then maybe it worked a little bit, but then you tried, and then you shifted from there and did something else, and you got even more results, and then you shifted again into a new lane until you found that lane that is just like that clear way. That's just all for you, and your absolute genius is what we call the genius zone. Is where you find that lane, and it's not smooth sailing, but it's all yours, and you feel like you own it, which is what I'm hearing here, man.
Absolutely. And, going off your point, I want to share something. A lot of times when we're teachers, we actually need to become pupils and learn from ourselves.
100%, man, 100%.
We have tons of wisdom and knowledge, but, we're slow to listen to our own counsel. And so one of the things I learned that I've applied to my business that's helped me tremendously, it's called persistent, patience, meaning that all of us want $1 million bank account tomorrow. We want $1 billion bank account tomorrow. We want to become the person we want tomorrow. We want the 6-pack abs tomorrow. The reality is that's just not how it works. And so, but you've got to be persistently patient and do something every single day to move your business forward. And so you mentioned something that's very key, which is, you may not stay in that lane forever, but the lessons that you learn there that you can include into your driver's manual that you believe for your life is so important. And let me give you an example of what I learned. When I was teaching, what I was teaching was middle school math, so 7th and 8th grade pre-algebra and algebra. And for those of you who hate math, I understand that, right? But just stick with me. I'm not going to give you a test at the end, but if I said a squared plus b squared, you would know that equals c squared, right?
A plus b squared, right? Yeah.
Exactly. And so, with that theorem, what happened, Richard, is the students that couldn't do the formula, they couldn't do the basic arithmetic. So if you can't add, subtract, multiply, and divide, but I'm telling you to put it, you have to do that and then figure out what order to put it in, there's no way you're going to solve the theorem. You're going to be so stuck on way back here. And with entrepreneurship, that's the same thing. What happens is we want to be here, but we haven't even been here yet. We're here. So, sometimes we need to slow down a little bit and just realize at this particular season of my life, I'm going to master this. I'm going to learn how to do this in my business.
Yep.
And then the next season, I'm going to learn this, and I'm going to learn this. And then this becomes second nature where you can do that so flawlessly that all you really have to focus on is this. And then when you can put it all together, or what you can do is focus on the one part of the component and then outsource everything else. And that's when you start to make more money with less time because you're leveraging other people for the skill set that they have. Because one of the biggest things I've really learned is I'm great at a lot of things, but I'm terrible at a lot of things. And humility and ego need to get out of the way if you're going to build a 6-7 figure business, because, if you get stuck doing all the things you shouldn't be doing, then you're taking away from, your God-given gifts of what you can do to maximize the ability that you have in order to really create the business that you need to impact as many people as you can. If not, you're being selfish.
Yeah. And I love that you bring this up, man, is that so often we all start off as entrepreneurs and we have that huge goal. I want to build a business lane that lets me free, my family free, we can do whatever we want. But we forget that, we're building these steps. And this is what you're saying is build these milestones. In this season of my life, I'm going to be working on creating businesses and trying it out and making it and getting myself to the point where I'm so busy. Then I know that I have to come in and actually start scaling. I have to start leveraging, have to start building systems and processes so other people can take over. And that's what I love hearing from you, man, especially someone who's been established, is that, doing everything yourself is just going to be another big ass job that you get yourself into. And I'm guessing that's what happened to yourself, right? And that's how you know this is to be true. Then how did you go away from shifting that idea from running your own solopreneurship to really running an entrepreneurship where you actually have a team and people doing the things that you're not great at?
Yeah, so a couple things. Number one is SYSTEM stands for Save Yourself Time, Energy, Money.
Yeah, I love that acronym,
You
man.
know, and it's so valuable because for me, when I was doing the real estate stuff, my job when I went every day was to prospect and recruit, and that's what I did very, very well. What happened is I got so many deals that our team couldn't keep up with them, and we had to create systems, which is a great problem, but it's also a problem to have, right? And
Yes.
so that's when I learned systems, and that's when I understood that, I need my team to work as hard as I do or as effectively as I do in what they're supposed to maximize their potential in, and then we can really, really take this thing and maximize and accelerate it. And so that was huge. But going into that transition, that conversation I was going to have about kind of what I did next after
Mhm.
speaking on stage, Richard, I really truly believe that we already have a path kind of laid out for us. We just got to figure it out. And so at the end of the day, what happened is, call it divine intervention, call it a Kairos moment, right? My second best-selling book, it's called Kairos, and I'll share a little bit about that here in a second.
Yep.
What happened is, after reading 3 Feet from Gold, I read this other book. There was a follow-up to that, and I carried a yardstick everywhere for 400 days. And it was because I was 3 feet from gold, and I knew that I wanted to get there. And so what happened is, as I was speaking on that stage the first time, I come off stage, and this gentleman asked why in the world I have this yardstick. And I shared with him about the book that changed my life. And I said, you should read it too if you ever get stuck. And it happened to be the author of the book that I was introducing myself to.
Oh, classic, man.
Yeah, and so that's when I really understood the law of attraction mentality. I went to work for him for a year. He wrote the foreword for my first book, and opened up a lot of doors for me. And that's when I really started my speaking career.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I wrote the first book called Changing Lanes, which is also the name of the company. And so for everybody that's listening out there, the reality is that every season of life brings a certain lane, and each lane can shift into the next one. But ultimately, again, when you continue driving forward, you are going to get into the one that actually is the fast lane for you. But the other big thing you're talking about is the HOV lane, or the carpool lane, is designed for us to get in the car with other people and bypass the ones that are limited by the laws that force them to be slow. Except the reality is, in entrepreneurship, it's not the laws that are forced on us, it's our own ability or inability to, slow ourselves down. There's nothing except for the laws that tell us what we can't do. In entrepreneurship, we get in our own way, we slow ourselves down, and that's usually when you get a lot of congestion in your business. And so, but let me share this kind of concept real quick too, because it's just so important. And Kairos means this. So Chronos is chronological order.
Yep.
Sequentially in order, we have gone through things in our lives that have led us to this conversation right here.
Mm-hmm.
Kairos is an indeterminate amount of time in which everything happens all at one time. So what we like to say is, you take an opportune moment and you turn it into a momentous opportunity for others. So sometimes what happens, Richard, is you're going through life and people say, oh man, you're getting all these breaks, you're so lucky, or the opposite of that is, oh man, I never get all the luck, everything always happens poorly for me. Well, the reality is that it's probably true, and I'm not going to go into law of attraction right now, but the reality is that you've been given opportunities, they've showed up in your life, and a lot of times you just miss them. Whereas successful entrepreneurs, they look at that opportunity, they don't see a problem in every opportunity, they see the opportunity in every problem, and they actually seize it. So seizing those moments is absolutely crucial and pivotal, and that's when you actually start to break through, because once you do that, guess what's going to happen? More of those moments are going to come in your life because you're open and aware of that, right? The reality is, in a car, you have a blind spot that you can't see, and entrepreneurs have our own blind spots, all of us.
Yes.
I can't see what I don't know or I'm not aware of. And so we need to make sure that we have somebody else like you, Richard, what you're doing with your mentees, or me, what I'm doing with mine, and say, this is what you're not seeing, let me help you see it. You can go 6 to 7 figures just like that, or you can get your first sale just like that, or you can do whatever by making that slight shift. And so, I fell in love with the idea of speaking and coaching and consulting, and we've written 2 #1 best-selling books, and the 3rd one's coming out. And I don't say that, as Les Brown says, to impress you, but he says to impress upon you the importance of, if you want to do something, just go do it. It's really not rocket science. Nothing's tough out there unless we make it tough. The simpler, the more grace, the more ease we allow in our lives, the easier it's going to be. And that's how I kind of approach life now, because if you're not having fun, you might as well just go back to work, because that's not fun either. and it's way easier. So pick your battle, pick your heart, and if you want to become a beast, you have to become one first.
Yeah, it's like that saying, I think I read it in your bio, it's like, it's not having a life full of accomplishments, it's living in your accomplishments that gives you a full life. And I love that, man. It's brilliant. And I love what you're sharing here, Lane, man. It opens up so much here, right? It opens up so much on how important it is to have a mentor, how important it is to get into the right team and create your own team. So even if you're a solopreneur, like even I'm still building, every time I start something new, we're all starting by ourselves. We're all doing it ourselves. And then what you're sharing here is that, you got to start learning to let go. So, when you're in the sales role, or even it's more like BD and marketing in that real estate firm, it's just, you're getting the traction, you're getting the lead, and you lead it over into the sales team. And this kind of relates into what this article I'm writing about, which is like the 3 energies of business, which is, you got marketing, you got sales, and you got delivery. And you're playing the marketer, the guy saying, hey guys, we've got all these houses, hey guys, we've got all these things, and then you pass it off to the sales team, which just closes, and then from there it just goes on to someone who's going to accept the order and deliver it based off what's been sold. And those are the 3 I think that are huge. And I love that you bring this up because it's massive, because most people get so confused, they think they have to do everything. And so when did you realize you had to step back and actually start leveraging and who did you hire first? I'd love to know, who was your first hire and what were they fulfilling for you and your business?
Yeah, good question. When I heard the example of the guy that invented Velcro is when I understood leverage. And they interviewed the guy that founded Velcro, and they said, how in the world did you sell it to billions of people? He said, I didn't. I sold it to 5. They just happened to be the head of NASA and the head of the automotive world and the head of, people that already had a big following and a big list of people that they could sell to. So that's the idea of leverage there, is how do you do that? And then the network marketing industry also taught me a lot of that. I really understood the concept of duplication and empowering other people, because leadership isn't about power, it's about empowerment. It's a big difference. And so an ability of a leader is to draw out of other people what they wouldn't normally do in their own ability. And when I saw paychecks coming in that industry in my business, when I was sleeping, I understood leverage, because I was so accustomed to doing a real estate transaction where money only came in if I did it, right? And then you would get a decent paycheck, but it goes away. And so that's when I really understood the idea of duplication and leverage. But when I started my own business 2 years ago, a lot of it was my own, but I guess my first hire was somebody to help kind of edit everything for me. I wrote, I'm blessed to have been given a gift of doing that, so I enjoy that process. But I hired a lot of people just in general. I mean, I outsourced the cover of the book, obviously. I outsourced formatting and all that kind of stuff. So that was my first experience. And then I actually, I got an opportunity to speak. And I was speaking on stage. It was when I was writing Kairos. And I spoke, and this young kid came up afterwards. He's like, dude, whatever you're doing, I'm in. I'm a part of it. Like, you sold me. I wasn't selling anything. He just liked my message. And I said, okay, get in my book as a pay-to-play type thing, and then I can teach you from there. So he did that. Now he's my vice president. Now we became 50-50 partners. So, I outsource a lot to him. He's a digital marketing expert. He actually worked with Gary Vaynerchuk for 4 months over the summer, for those of you who are in the internet marketing world. And so he's, we run 2 totally opposite sides of our business. Because my skill set is not his skill set is not mine, but we complement each other very, very well. And I'm blessed to have somebody that's like that. But one thing I want to share real quick on that. The reason we kind of came together is we created a formula that we believe is very, very true. And this is what we help people do. Okay. And I'm not plugging anything. I'm not pitching anything, but every single entrepreneur, Richard, I've really discovered they need basically 3 things. It's the CAR formula. So CAR, obviously if we're changing lanes, right? The R, I'm going to go in reverse. The R is recognition. They need more visibility. They need people to know who they are and what they do and why they operate the way they do. Okay. Without that, you're nobody. It's so competitive out there now. There's so much noise, especially on the internet side of everything and social media. But you need more recognition. This right here is a perfect example of more recognition. People don't know me in your audience. The reason I said yes is because who do I know? Maybe I get somebody that's watching this and they say, hey, I love what you're doing. Come speak in Singapore, right?
Yep.
We'll pay for your flight. We'll pay for your travel. Okay, done. My goal is to see all 7 continents. I haven't been over to Asia. So I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm just saying it's a possibility.
Yeah.
But more importantly, that's selfish, right? Except it's selfless because I know if somebody actually did that and they came over and spoke, I would impact somebody's life and maybe I would help them in their own world. So it's selfish to become selfless. But the flip of that is maybe I'm on this call because somebody's supposed to hear my message, reach out to me, and let me help them break through something that they're stuck in and completely change their life forever. Not that I have that power. That would be upstairs, right? My mentor. But at the end of the day, you know what I'm saying? It's like, that's why we do what we do. So that's the R. It's recognition. It's getting more people to know who you are. Then the A is authority, because being well known is not the same as being known well. Big difference. And so with the A, if you look at the first 6 letters, you have author. A-U-T-H-O-R. A-U-T-H-O-R. Man, it's 9 o'clock here, so it's my fault. And so that's why I've written 2 books. That's why I'm writing my 3rd, and we help people do that. We do collaborative books, and then we do, individual books where if you have an idea, we'll just help you write it and publish it and all that kind of stuff, because we know that it's a huge component for speakers, authors, coaches, and trainers.
Yeah.
And that leads to the C. The C is contribution back to the world, or collaboration. Who knows if you and I are supposed to be doing something together? Maybe there's something that I can, outsource to you and your team, or maybe there's something that, you can hire me for or whatever, but we've got to collaborate because the world is full of competition. Collaborative competition is going to be way, way, way more impactful over time. So that's what our company focuses on. We do those 3 things very well, depending on where you are, what you need. And it's just, the only reason I brought that up is, that's the idea of outsourcing. It's the idea of either getting mentorship on that and then go finding other people, a virtual assistant in the Philippines, or it doesn't matter. Like, as long as they're professional at what they do, it doesn't matter to me, right?
Yeah.
You have to make sure that you train the people. And sometimes it's literally bringing it in-house and saying, I need you to be here every single day because I need accountability. I need you to be accountable, and our business won't grow that way. My VP is actually, we're very close to him moving out. We're not even in the same city. We live in 2 different cities and run our business internationally. So we're kind of thinking, we're flying to Detroit to actually get an investor on Monday. And so, we're excited about everything, and it might open up the opportunity for him to actually move out. And that way we can really maximize this thing. So everything is a learning process. It's a curve of, figuring stuff out in the internet world, beta testing. And that's unfortunately what life is. But you need to have the driver's manual, and then beta test that. So I'll share one more thing, and then I'll slow down for a little bit because I know I'm all excited.
I'm sitting there like a fire hose is just
I know.
right now of information. It's awesome. And so,
the third book is called Life in the Fast Lane. So that's kind of how I roll, right? But this year, in January 31st of 2016, I decided to get rid of everything, and I actually went across the country. The intention was a 90-day road trip around the United States to hit all 48 states. It turned into 8 months. So I was homeless for 8 months intentionally, and we drove around the country. My girlfriend at the time, now my beautiful fiance, because we flew to Hawaii and got engaged at the very end of the trip. It was a blessing to be able to do that. But the reason I brought that up is there's two components there. There's a roadmap in life, and then there's a set of directions. And in entrepreneurship, let's just say that you wanted to build a 6-figure business. A roadmap, you can build it infinite numbers of ways, right? There's no lack of opportunity out there. Set of directions that if you want to earn 6 figures in this industry, do this, and this, right? If you want to get 7 figures, you do this, and this, for example. So it's so important for people to find what they want, follow a roadmap, which gives you flexibility, and it gives you a little bit of freedom to do what you want in your own way. Because Richard, if you and I were to start a competition today in the same thing that we were both good at, we could be creative and get to the end result however we wanted, right? It's like the Amazing Race type thing.
Yep.
But if you gave me a set of directions and you a set of directions, I bet we would get there a lot faster. And so that's the whole concept. Mentorship, that's what mentorship is. It's a set of directions that's proven. It says do this, turn left, turn right, make a U-turn, and you're going to end up where you want to be. But use your own personality, your own experiences, your own belief systems and values tied into that, and you'll create some success along the way.
Yeah, man, beautiful. It's like one of my mentors say, the fastest way from A to B is not a straight line, Lane. It's to go find someone who's gone through and done it before, because that is the fastest way. And I love that you bring that up, because mentoring is so powerful. It's just so many people don't tap into that because they think, oh, you know what, Lane, I'm just going to do it myself, because it's not really the same if I don't do it myself. Sure. And then if you're willing to pay that time, then hey, go for it, right? Go for it. And man, Lane, man, I want to say thank you so much, man. It's been amazing here, man. We got to start wrapping up the show. And it pains me, man, because this fire hose of information you're sending through over here is just so, just keeping me alive right now here. And I'm trying to take it all in. And it sucks that we have to start wrapping up. But man, as we wrap up, we're going to go into some quick fire questions. And the question I got for you here, man, is, if it's our signature question, it's our time travel moment. If you could go back to any moment in your life, Lane, and you could speak to little Lane and give him one piece of advice that you know today, when would you go back to him? What would you tell him?
Good question. I would go back to my middle school self as a middle school teacher and remind myself that the problems that I think are really problems back then are gifts and blessings that are going to turn into desirable recognitions that I didn't understand at the time.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful.
Because at the end of the day, every single blessing we have was usually a hardship prior to that, or it was an awareness shift that maybe it wasn't even that dramatic. But the truth of the matter is that it led us to where we are, and every single thing we do is for an intended reason. Is God's purpose and divine plan for your life. And you just have to trust that, your struggles are going to become your strengths, and your tests are going to become your testimony.
Beautiful, man. Beautiful. Next one I have for you, man, as we wrap up here is, we get a lot of people here who have done very well, and even yourself in business and in finances. And I want to ask you this, man, it's like, what's true wealth really look like for you? How would you describe it?
Gratitude, number one.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the end of the day, it's crazy. I mean, think about this. You and I are taking for granted right now that we're in two different countries talking on a computer. It's so crazy. When I was in sales and I was struggling for a little bit, the phone never really scared me. A lot of people it will. Mm-hmm. But I got stuck at one point, and I read a statistic at the time that said 50% of people in the world will never make or receive a phone call in their entire life.
What?
Yeah. Now that maybe it's changed a little bit, right? Since I read that. But when I read that, I'm like, how can I be so stubborn and selfish to not want to make prospecting calls to make money when most people are dreaming about that opportunity? Mm. And it's just crazy. I mean, you've got a lamp, over your left shoulder. Mm-hmm. We take things for granted. So happiness and joy, and that's really the start of everything. There's actually a physiological response of gratitude that if they study that, you attract people. And I'm not a big woo-woo type of guy, but at the end of the day, you can't mess with science. I'm not saying science versus religion right now, but there's truth to both. And gratitude creates a vibrational frequency that actually attracts other people to you. And so I always start every single morning and every night with a gratitude party, rambling off things that I'm grateful for. Sometimes it's so stupid, like, the ability to brush my teeth, to have teeth to brush, stuff like that. Sometimes it's, hey, I just got a new client today, or whatever it might be. But I think when we start and end our day with gratitude, that really is the ultimate test of happiness and wealth, because, at the end of the day, everything's fleeting, everything comes and goes. And then the other big thing I think is to really value number one. So if I give you 1 million right now, the number 1 million, and all the zeros represented your car, your house, your significant other, all the things that are important to you. And the number one was health. And I took away number one. What do you have left?
Nothing.
And so it's so important. That's why I got aligned with the network marketing company. One of the businesses I do is because my mom's a 30-year breast cancer survivor, and the products tremendously helped her. I lost 63 pounds. Without health, you don't have anything. That mental, physical, spiritual, it's not necessarily just, a six-pack ab type of thing. You've got to have an overall health. And so I think those are two of the biggest ones that I really focus on. And then the third one I would say is relationships, strong, healthy, abundant relationships that are not self-serving, but they're legitimately people in your life that can speak truth into it when you need it, and vice versa. You can do that to them as well.
Awesome. Dude, man, you just tapped on all the key parts that we covered here on this show, and I love it. And so, man, as we wrap up here, Lane, thank you so much for being on the show, man. For people who want to connect with you and what you're doing and some of your books as well, where's the best place they can find you, man?
I mean, if you want the books, just go to Amazon, type in Lane Ethridge. Last name is Ethridge. I'm going to give out my cell phone, depending on where the person is in the world. They can either do it through WhatsApp or text me, but my cell is 240-401-9742. The reason I give that out is because the people actually make the effort to do that. I know they're serious because I did that with my mentors. 99% of people will never pick up the phone and do that. I gave that challenge last night. I had 10 people do it. I gave them a time frame. It was awesome. I got 10 leads this morning from a talk I did last night. Again, I'm not just doing it just for that, right? But it shows you're going to make the effort. And then anything you're doing, Richard. I mean, just, people can connect through you. You can, certainly give them, make a warm introduction if they don't feel comfortable doing that. You and I are connected now, so if they trust you more, then they can certainly go through you to get to me, and that's great too.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Any last words, man, that we couldn't get to share or didn't get to cover on the show here today, brother?
I would just say it's time to make a shift, take your life in overdrive, accelerate your dreams, and you are a lane changer. And anything we can do to support you and what you're doing, whether it's to find your right lane, whether it's to accelerate it, whether it's to take it into overdrive, or maybe make a complete lane change, we'd love to help you do that or put you in touch with somebody that can. Life is about helping other people. Zig Ziglar said it best, right? Helping other people get what they want, you'll eventually get what you want too. And Richard, I appreciate you, everything you're doing. People need to stay in touch with you, follow you, make sure that they're loyally listening to that, because I've been following you for a little bit and we're starting our relationship, but I'm excited about where it's going to go. And, it's time to look up to people that are actually doing something, not just talking about it. Because at the end of the day, results are the report cards that we have in life, and we get to, it's a pretty open book policy in this world, right? In entrepreneurship, it's very different from what I was teaching in middle school. So the answers are already out there. All you got to go do is ask the right questions. You'll find them, and you'll create the results you want, guys.
Awesome, man. And man, once again, thank you again for being on the show, brother.
My pleasure.
So guys, this wraps up another episode of the Forge Your Life podcast here today with Lane Ethridge, the Lane Changer. And I know this, Lane hasn't said it on the show, but I know he wants this. He doesn't want this to be a secret. I don't want this to be a secret. This can't be hidden in the back alleys of the streets. This needs to be on the highways of the road so that people can actually hear his message, and not just his, but other people too. So if you think, you want to share this message, I want you to encourage you to go over to iTunes to rate the show. If you think we're in a slow lane, give us 1 star. If you think we're in a fast highway lane, then give us 5 stars so that we can get the message out there. And of course, guys, you can head on over to richardfu.com, where I'll cover all the show notes to the end resources that Lane has shared here today. And of course, guys, remember to go out there, go live with love, and go smash it. And I'll see you in the next one.